I never set out to be a children's book author. I'm going to be in full transparency. But I think that what was the catalyst for it? Not I think, I know that the catalyst for this was my motherhood and my motherhood journey. I became a mom in 2019, and my son Blake was, I mean, when I say love books, he would always go for a book over a toy. And so I really found myself reading to him quite a bit. But my motherhood journey also comes with a lot of tragedy. Blake was diagnosed with pediatric brain cancer when he was just 9 months old, and we lost him just 1 month after his second birthday. And while he was in the hospital undergoing many of his cancer treatments, we would travel there with tons of books. And at that time, which was a difficult time, I really wanted a book that had this sort of message of having this mental grit that even when things are maybe a bit difficult, you have this mental power to overcome that thing. And so I wrote my first children's book, The Miracle Worker's Boy versus Beast, during that time. And this is my second book, which has the same spirit of fostering healthy, strong minds in young people so that when life does get hard, you have a reservoir to tap into, and that is a strong mind. Um, I often think that, you know, we teach kids their letters, their numbers, the golden rule, but how about starting really early to teach them about hope and resilience, to prepare them for the challenges that we know are going to come, but prepare them before they actually need these skills. And so, as far as the inspiration goes, after I lost Blake, I spent a lot of time just sitting outside in nature. And during that time, I received a lot of just profound messages, whether it was the trees that were losing it all in the fall, but there they were standing up tall. I so clearly remember winter after losing Blake, there was this big snowstorm, and the weight of the snow snapped a limb on a tree in my backyard, and that limb sat there just dangling by a shred of bark for that entire winter and into the spring. And I really thought that that limb was dead until I saw it blooming that next spring. And in that moment, the message I received was, even in your broken state, you can still grow and you can still blossom. So it was those sort of messages that I thought I want to put into a book for young kids so that they can observe and see within the nature surrounding them these messages of hope and resilience that nature is certainly telling us if we just slow down and sit still to receive them. And so that was the inspiration behind the nature of change.
Man, I can resonate with that so deeply because when I suffered a loss 2 years ago, nature was the way I coped, connecting with
Mm,
nature. Like that, man, I feel that. I understand that, right? So fully.
I love
Yeah.
to hear that. Yeah. I
So
mean, did
as
you receive, I hate to be like asking you questions, but I'm curious, was there like one lesson for you that like really stood out when you kind of just allowed yourself to sit there and observe?
for me, it was, I had the same resonating experience with the trees,
Mm,
listening to the birds, and specifically, I'm not a fan of cats.
yeah.
But watching the stray cats, watching how the sound of the birds, the trees, and cats, how Nate everything had its purpose. And
Yeah.
God is so purposeful that everything in nature, from the smallest little critter to a massive oak tree, serves its purpose, and they all kind of marry.
Yeah.
And that reminded me, you still have purpose.
Yeah.
Don't let the challenges of life make you feel like this is it, it's over. We all have purpose. Even through despair, there's purposes in learning. There's purposes and lessons to be learned, even through despair and through the darkest moments. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how much nature really does mirror a lot of the emotional experiences that we experience as humans. And to be honest, I've always appreciated nature and thought it was beautiful and would never mind to be outdoors, but never I would say, it wasn't until after my experience of child loss that I actually can say I learned from nature. I mean, that's two different things, like appreciating the beauty of these changing colors of the leaves versus walking away with a lesson to apply to your life. And that really does exist. And I hope that this book, with its three lessons, is just the entryway for kids to see that if they want to be inspired about how to handle tough things, tough changes, unwanted changes in their life, sometimes the best advice could come from just spending some time outdoors, being still enough to kind of observe and see what lessons does nature have for me today and how can I use it in my life.
This book was aimed at children ages 4 to 8, right? So I
Yes.
want to kind of unpack something that you mentioned moments ago about helping children cope with big topics. How can mindfulness help kids in this age group cope with anxiety and big emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so hard, even for us as adults, just to kind of in a world of, first of all, headlines, as someone who works in news, changing literally by the second. The world is changing literally by the second. Layer onto that, everything is fast paced with technology and everything just a swipe away. These things kind of converge to make it really difficult to focus or sit still. And I think that might be, one of the best lessons that parents can pass on to kids is the power of focusing your mind when chaos is happening all around you. And I think that in myself, with my own practice of trying, and I'm not an expert at this, and I'm still a work in progress when it comes to quieting your mind and being mindful, but I think in those moments, you can focus on what is the thing that I'm trying to overcome and have a clearer perspective on how to navigate that. But again, this is all that we're trying to do this at an age appropriate way. So by using nature as sort of the carrot to kind of get them outdoors, perhaps, and sit still to see these messages. Um, we're using nature as this metaphor to unpack these very abstract concepts. I mean, you try to tell a 4-year-old what resilience is all about or hope. It's very abstract. But if you tell them something like, remember the spider and its web, they automatically remember this spider that has rebuilt over and over and over again. If the spider can rebuild, so can I. There's so many age appropriate lessons there, but you can only really kind of tap into them or notice them if you have this ability to focus your mind and be still, as we commonly call it, as being mindful. So I think these two things go hand in hand, and maybe kind of tough for parents to get kids to do this in the beginning, but I think if they go out there knowing and have this curiosity of what am I going to learn today, they may be enticed enough to kind of sit still to figure that out.
Right on. Now, you've mentioned the parents. What about the grandparents? How can
Them
grandparents
too.
support children in managing stress and uncertainty at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all the same. It's the caregivers, it's the parents, the grandparents, that, you use this book as a tool to start that conversation. This book can be the starting point of a routine for every day where you ask your child, what did you learn from nature today? It kind of plants a seed in their head to focus and be mindful as they move through the day and see and observe to be focused enough to kind of receive a message for the day. The other thing that I'm really proud of that we put together to further kind of bolster this lesson that parents, grandparents, caregivers, teachers can use is on my website, renemarsh.com. We created a journal that has prompts where it kind of helps the kid along in that it may say something like the sun, it shows up every day. It's persistent. What are you persistent in? Is there something that you're trying to become better at? And how can the sun's persistence help you in your, voyage to improve on something. It has all of these prompts that kind of guides them to different aspects of nature and how it may be giving them certain lessons. And then we also have an auditory experience, an audio experience for children, where they can essentially hear the sounds of nature, which also helps to just settle the mind. But this experience between the book, between the journal and the audio experience of sounds of wind, sound of the rain, really is intended to really capture all senses for the children, to help them really kind of zero in and be mindful and focused on nature and what am I receiving and what message am I receiving from it.
I almost feel like teachers should be, this should be part of lesson plans, and these activities should be a part of lesson plans at school. Can you envision, do you see teachers implementing this in some of their curriculum?
I really hope so. I mean, I've through my own reporting, just on other issues and policies, I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of teachers, and they're the ones on the front lines. I mean, kids spend a large chunk of their day, of their 24-hour day in school. So these teachers are having a front row seat to the emotional strain that is coming to the school doors. Everything from financial insecurity, changes in family structure, whatever the particular change is. Maybe it's the change that parents are experiencing, and the parents is like their nervous system is now connected to the child. And so when they sense a shift in a parent's emotion, the child feels that. So all those things are being brought into the schoolhouse, and teachers are having to deal with it. So I genuinely hope that this could be a tool, again, playing on all the senses that kids have to really capture their attention here, and helping them kind of slow down their mind and also look for those lessons every day. So that's really the second part of what got me into writing children's literature. It was number one, wanting more books for myself and for my son at that time that really captured that spirit of having this mental grit that you will be okay and you will overcome. But the other part of it was I really wanted to use my passion and what I believe is my talent of writing and having great imagination to solve a larger problem, and that is pediatric cancer. And what I learned going through the journey with my son is that there is a dramatic disparity between funding for pediatric cancer research versus any cancer research for adults. They get just a sliver, and it's always not enough. And when there is not enough, when it comes to research funds, what that means in real life terms is that a mom like me gets the news from an oncologist that your son has a cancer that very little is known about and there's no cure for it. That was Blake's scenario. And so when I wrote The Miracle Workers, I wrote that book and donated 100% of the proceeds to pediatric cancer research. We funded three research awards, two of them at St. Jude's and one of them at Sick Kids in Toronto, to move the needle on a specific sort of brain cancer. And this new book, The Nature of Change, I donated 14%. I will say The Miracle Workers was self-published, so I could give away 100% of the funds. With this new book, it is not self-published. I went through a traditional publisher, so I myself donated 14% of my advance to pediatric cancer research. I will continue to do that through all of my creative work because aside from inspiring and creating a foundation, mental foundation for young kids to kind of deal with challenges as they come up in life, I really want to solve this problem of pediatric cancer. I don't want it to be a world in which a child is diagnosed with something for which there is no cure. That's not okay. And I hope that through my writing, I could begin to chip away at this problem. It's a big problem to try to chip away as one woman, but there are a lot of other people in this space doing something, and this is my way of doing something, using my talents to solve this larger problem.